I'm Bill Jameson. Welcome to 24/7 Dad Zoom class. I am glad you could be with us for this session 1. If you have your handbook, please get it and follow along with me. If you do not have your handbook yet, get a pen and pad and just follow along and take notes so that when you do get your handbook, you can fill it out quickly. Well, we want to start by looking at our history. And I have a few statements I want to make, but I have an overarching question that I want to say before. And the question is, what it means to be a man and my role. What does it mean to be a man and my role? And now we want to look at it historically. When I grew up, being a man meant that his role in the family was what? What was that role like when you grew up? I wrote that the man was a provider, protector, decision maker, and he was responsible for discipline. That's what I kind of saw. What did you see? Or what was your experience? Then the next statement I want to make is, today, being a man, to most guys I know, means that his role in the family is what? I wrote co-provider, co-nurturer, works outside the house and works inside the house. When I grew up, men mainly worked outside the house, and they weren't considered to be nurturers. I think that we have seen a change in that in many respects, especially with younger dads. I think younger dads are more apt to nurture today than men in my generation. And so I want to applaud you for that. I think that young men tend to measure up much better today than they did when I grew up. So I want you to really write down in your handbook what you see about that statement. What I wrote was that my role was to provide leadership, provision, love, and care for the entire family. How do you see your role? Now let's talk about roles of mom and dad. Question 1 is, actually it is a statement. Statement 1, the most important role of my children's mother is what? Would you complete that sentence? I wrote, to be a good character example to my children. How do you see that? And then the next statement I want to make here is that my most important role is. What is your most important role? I wrote, to be a good character example to my children and my wife, or the mother of my children. Then I want you to finish this statement. Roles that the mother of my children and I share together are what? What are those roles? What are the things that you and the mother of your children do together? And I wrote loving and caring models for our children. I feel that it is the responsibility, my responsibility, and the wife of my children's responsibility to love and care for our children. Now, loving and care covers a lot of territory, but we don't have time to get into all the details of that, but at least that's how I see it. I want to know how you see it, okay? And then the fourth statement I want you to complete is this. One role I refuse or hate to do is, what is the thing you hate to do in the family? Me, it was changing diapers when our kids were little tots. I didn't like changing diapers, and I didn't really care for washing dishes, really. But now I wash more dishes than ever before, mainly because my kids are all out of the house, and my wife and I live together, and she does most of the cooking, so I feel it's only right that I should help keep the kitchen clean, so I wash the dishes. What about you? How would you approach that? All right. Now, I want to switch gears, and I want to talk about self-awareness. which really is basically dealing with self-esteem. And let me just stop here and explain a few things concerning self-esteem. Self-esteem is how you see yourself and how you would like for others to see you. Although others may not always see you the way you would like for them to see you, but your self-esteem is that you want them to see you a certain way. And so the real question is that how do you get people to see you the way you see you? Okay? And is that important or is it not important? Self-esteem, I want to tell you, is very important. It is one of the most important things you can have. And many times when we grow up, we pull from our environment things that we think will enhance our self-esteem. It could be that pair of Nike shoes. It could be a bike. It could be, a certain outfit. It could be, the baseball bat or whatever the case may be. We saw those things as perhaps making us better, okay? And so we grow up in life thinking that things on the outside, if we get them, it will make us better. But that is really a fallacy. Self-esteem is not taken from things from the outside. The things from the outside are temporary, because if they afforded you self-esteem, when you take those things away, where is your self-esteem? And that's why a lot of people commit suicide when they lose money or jobs or whatever, because their self-esteem is tied to what they can possess materialistically. But self-esteem is about an inward quality that is steady no matter what your condition might be. It is not based upon what's going on around you. It's based on what's going on inside of you, how you see yourself. And you know what? The best person or persons to give you a good self-esteem would be your mother and your father. And I would say mainly your father. The father or the dad has a great influence on how a child sees him or herself. If it's a daughter, she is really concerned about how her dad sees her. And she wants to please the dad, believe it or not. And many times she goes out and finds men that pairs her dad. So if her dad is good, she looks for a good man. If her dad is a rascal, she may look for a rascal because she's trying to carry out what she sees in her father. On the other hand, the man or the boy tries to do what he sees his dad does, okay? So I'm saying to you is that you have a great influence on your children. So it is important that you have a good understanding of who you are. And if you have a positive self-esteem, you will do positive things. If you have a negative self-esteem, you will do negative things. Let me give you an example. You could have been brought up in a home where you didn't have a lot of money, and there was turmoil in the home, mother and father fighting, and you never got what you really needed. You didn't get support that you needed in school. You couldn't participate in activities at school because you didn't have the money or the resources. And so what you developed was a negative self-esteem because of your environment, okay? And many of us do that. We develop a negative self-esteem from the negative things that occurs in our environment. But what I'm suggesting to you is that in spite of your environment, you can still have a positive self-esteem. And let me give you an example. I grew up in a family of six. There were six of us. And my dad worked. He was a jack of all trades. He could make money. And he really did a lot of great things. But he was very, very poor at managing money. And therefore, we never had a lot of money. we didn't get the stuff that we should have gotten because he didn't bring it home. He was always doing something that he shouldn't have done. And he wouldn't listen to my mother to help manage the money that he did make, because he thought that because he's a man, he should handle that. But he really didn't have the skills. And if he had listened to my mother, he would have been a well-off man. Now, what am I saying here is that I chose not to derive my self-esteem from what I saw. I made a conscious effort to go beyond my environment. I looked for other things. I remember I grew up in a very country, if you will, and agricultural environment, and people would go to the fields and work and stuff. I hated that. I didn't like the farm. I didn't like milking the cows. I didn't like any of that. And I made up my mind that once I got of age, I was never going to do that. I wanted to be an executive. I would be an office worker, if you will. And so I set my sights on that. I also made up my mind that I would go to school. I would finish college. I would go to college and get a degree. Okay? I made those decisions beyond the environment that I was in. In other words, my environment was not preparing me to do those things, but I decided that those were the good things that I was going to go after. And because my dad, even though he didn't provide for me materialistically, he did provide me with a good self-esteem. He said to me, "Boy, you can do anything that you want to do. Anything that you set your mind to do, you can do it. Nobody can stop you. I don't care who they are, what they are, they cannot stop you from doing what you want to do." He always encouraged us to be our best and to do our best. Well, I grew up with that, and that impacted my self-esteem. I took that and went outside the box and came up with the image I wanted to portray, what I wanted to be. And it was outside of my reality. But that helped to change my trajectory in life, if you will. And what success I've had was because of that. So I'm saying to you that self-esteem plays a very important role in how our children develop the skills and abilities that they have. So your role as a 24/7 dad is very, very important. That's why we want to spend time learning about how we can be better 24/7 dads. All right. So let me just give you a statement here, and this will sort of give you a sort of a synopsis, if you will, or a summary of what we've been talking about. Self-awareness. The 24/7 dad is aware of himself as a man and aware of how important he is to his family. He knows his moods, his feelings, and his emotions, his capabilities, strengths, and challenges. He is responsible for his behavior and knows that his growth depends on how well he knows himself and accepts himself. He also knows that his ability to be with his children is affected by the choices he has made, and he accepts responsibility for those choices. That's what we're talking about. And I believe that you should have a good self-esteem in order to be better at being a 24/7 dad. So, my question for you, how well do you know yourself? How well do you know yourself? Now let's switch to how well do you care for yourself? How well do you care for yourself? And in what areas should you be concerned about? The 24/7 dad takes care of himself. He gets annual physicals. Do you have an annual physical? And you might say, well, I don't have the money to have an annual physical. And that's understandable. But if you make good decisions other places, you will find a way to do that. But oftentimes, our poor decisions keeps us from getting an annual physical. And then there are means by which you could get a physical in spite of not having the resources for it. But that would require you knowing other things about the community that you live in. And then he eats the right foods, works out to stay in shape, and he learns about the world that he lives in. That's what I mean by learning about the world that you live in, that there could be ways that you could achieve this from the environment that you're in. He has a strong connection to his family and community and chooses friends who support his healthy choices. The 24/7 dad models for his children that he respects and likes himself because he makes good decisions. All right. So, how well do you care for yourself? Would you answer that question in your handbook? Now let's look at fathering skills. Fathering skills. What kind of fathering skills do you have? The 24/7 dad knows his role in the family. He knows he is a model for his sons on how to be a good man and father, and for his daughters on what they should look for in a husband and a father for their children. He knows that, if possible, he should be involved in the daily life of his children, from getting them up, dressing them and feeding them in the morning, to attend parent-teacher conferences, to supporting them in sports and other interests and activities, to helping them with their homework, to tucking them in at night. Wow, that's a full circle there. Okay, the 24/7 dad uses his knowledge of the unique skills he and his wife or the mother of his children brings to raising their children. In other words, he knows the difference between fathering and mothering. There is a difference between fathering and mothering. Mothers tend to be more nurturing, and fathers tend to be more, I would say, supportive physically and in other areas. But as I said before, today's men, today's dads are learning to be nurturers. I see more men nurturing today than I've ever seen before. So, looking at parenting skills, we want to say the 24/7 dad nurtures his children. He knows how his parenting skills help to develop their physical, emotional, intellectual, social, spiritual, and creative needs. And let's just take these. Physical. A 24/7 dad can impact the physical needs of his sons and daughters. They will be better at sports, and they will take care of themselves physically if the dad sets a good example, if he's involved. Emotionally, they will be secure in who they are, and they will feel that they are loved by their dad, and they want to please their dad. So they will perform to the father's liking, especially if they know the father cares about what they're doing. And then intellectually, they'll do better in school. They'll make better grades. And they will soar in intellectual areas because here again, they have a good self-esteem and they have good support from their parents. Socially, they will not maybe gravitate toward bullying and other things that would be negative or cause problems at school. They won't do those things if they know that they are loved and they're supported by their parents. And so it's very important that we realize how much we can influence our children in these areas. And then spiritually, what kind of values do they have? What are life principles that are being passed on to them that will help them to make good decisions? And you can help them be creative by your support, by giving them a good self-esteem and supporting them. They will perform better and they will do creative things. I've seen my children be very creative because they were secure. And so your child can be very creative when that child feels that he or she is being supported by you, that you're interested in what they are doing. Okay? His children trust and feel safe with him because he cares about and nurtures them through the use of proven parenting skills. The 24/7 dad uses discipline to teach and guide his children, not to threaten or harm them. It is so important that we know how to discipline our children. One of the things you don't want to do is to discipline them when you are upset, when you're angry with them or about what they've done. You need to wait until you calm. Wait and let the anger subside, then you discipline. But your discipline now is intentional and you're going to do it in love. And believe me, there's a difference between the two. And if you do it when you're mad, you may say things that you will regret later on. You may call them out of their name, and your words can hinder them for a lifetime. You can tell your child that you're dumb and they will act dumb, even though they may not be, but they will carry it out because your words are powerful and they will impact their lives. And so we need to understand that about our children, that they are very impressionable by the parents that brought them into the world. So the 24/7 dad will use discipline to constructively teach the child. Constructively teach the child. Separate the child's behavior from the child's personage. You don't diminish the person, but you deal with the behavior to make the correction. And that's what's important with discipline. So, the 24/7 dad asked himself, how well do I parent? Now let's look at relationships. This is the last thing I want to talk to you about, is relationship skills. What kind of relationship skills do you have? And here again, I believe that our self-esteem really plays a very vital role in how we relate to other people. Do we relate in a positive way? What are our expectations concerning other people? You know, I always expected to be accepted, no matter where I might go. I have worked in all kinds of situations. I have worked overseas. I've worked with foreigners. I've worked with different races of people. And sometimes I was the only black person, if you will, or person of color in the group. But I didn't feel inferior. I didn't feel like, I didn't belong because of my self-esteem, because of what my dad taught me, okay? And I'm saying that helps me to build better relationships. And I believe that people are sort of like the dog, the yard dog, that really makes the noise when you come to the gate. You go inside the gate and boy, he's about to tear you apart. And you move, you're going toward the house, and he's barking, right? And he's not running at you, but he's barking. He's barking, he's barking, he's barking, right? If you stand and look the dog in the eye and tell the dog, I'm not going anywhere, I'm not going to move, I'm going in the house, more than likely the dog will back off. Now, you might not want to try that with a Tutwiler, or a Doberman Pinscher, okay? I'm not saying that this is foolproof, but I'm trying to make a point, though, about the average dog. So the average dog will back off when that dog sees that you're not moved by what he's doing. But that same dog who will not approach you or attack you, if you turn and run, that dog will get behind you and he will tag you because you ran. And I'm saying to you is that you communicate to the dog where you are. And people are the same way. We tell people what to think of us. We tell people what we think of ourselves by how we act and what we say. And you can emanate how you see yourself to other people. You can express how you feel. You can express your self-esteem to others, not in words, but just in being. Many of you have made decisions about who I am, and you just started listening to me. But you picked up on some things. And I'm saying that that's what I'm getting at. That is the stuff that makes good 24/7 dads. When 24/7 dads know who they are, then they can communicate better with others, mainly with their children and the mother of their children. And so, what are some of the things we're talking about here? The 24/7 dad builds and maintains healthy relationships with his children and the mother or the wife of his children and other family members and friends in the community. He knows and values how relationships shapes the children and their lives. The 24/7 dad knows how the relationship with his wife or the mother of his children affects the children and does his best to create a good working relationship with her for the sake of the children. He always looks to improve the skills he uses to communicate with others. And I'm saying that's why you need to know yourself, be aware of yourself, and have a good self-esteem. I can't emphasize having a good self-esteem too much. And of course, the study of self-esteem is a study in itself. And obviously, I'm just scratching the surface on that, but I think I want to just point out a few facts about it that will help you if you need to work on your self-esteem. I'm not saying that you don't have it, and maybe this is not for you, but I think it's good for all of us to refresh ourselves into what it takes to be a good dad, a 24/7 dad, and be better at fathering or at parenting. So, what am I saying here? I want you to apply what you have learned in this session, okay, to create a checklist of some things that you're going to do after this session. I want you to look at daily things, weekly things, and monthly things that will reinforce the things that we've talked about. Now, in your handbook, you have a listing there, and you can choose those things and work it out and use the handbook as a way of monitoring how well you carry that out. Okay? So, we've come to the end of this session, and I'm so glad that you could be with us for this first session. And I want you to go on and click your mouse there or whatever device you're using, go on to session 2. And when you get there, I will be there. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.